Hello, you're welcome to today's class. Today we are looking at another topic in performance management, and that is approaches to measurement of performance. Approaches to measurement of performance. So at the end of this lecture, you want to be able, or you should be able to determine or discuss the determinants of performance dimensions. We want to be able to look at the approaches to measuring performance. You should be able to explain this in terms of behavior, the behavior approach, the results approach, and the trait approach. And then finally, you should be able to explain how to measure results and behavior. Now, performance management systems usually includes measures of both behaviors. In terms of behavior, what we mean is what an employee does at work, okay, what they are responsible of, and how they carry that out, the things they do to be able to achieve the results. So we have behavior and results. Now, the behavior is what you do to achieve the results. Okay. Now, so the result is the outcome of your behavior. But both of these are towards a particular goal. Okay. Or let's say a particular goal that has been assigned or that the individual employee has assigned to themselves. Okay. Mostly it is linked to your job description or your job specific assigned duties. So the things you have that have been identified as the goal. And we have said in other lectures that your goal as an employee should always align to the goal of the organization in a whole. The strategic goal is what you are aiming at. So whatever you have aimed to achieve, okay, that is the result we're talking about. Now, the behaviors you put in place to achieve that result is the behavior we are mentioning here. So there are two characteristics of performance in terms of behavior. Performance is evaluative, and then two, performance is multi-dimensional. Now, performance is evaluative here means that behaviors can be judged as negative, neutral, or positive for individual and organizational effectiveness. In other words, the value of these behaviors can vary based on whether they make a contribution towards the accomplishment of individual, unit, or organizational goals. Okay, so there is a goal that has been set. Okay, this goal aligns with the entire or the organizational goal, but it begins with being an individual goal, it's a unit goal, and an organizational goal. Now, if we judge these, or we are able to evaluate these performances based on whether it is a negative performance or it's a neutral, that means neither here nor there, you're just doing something, or it's a positive one. Okay, so this is what we mean by performance is evaluative. Now, we can also say performance is multidimensional. This means that there are many different kinds of behaviors that have the capacity to advance or hinder the organizational goals. Okay, it means that there are a number of them. Now, an example, consider a set of behaviors that can be grouped under the general label contribution to effectiveness of others in the workplace. So you are evaluating somebody and you write the statement, the person contributes effectively to the work of others. What do you mean by that? That could mean several things, okay? And that has to be determined by the person doing the evaluation or the system. So it can mean the person works with others within and outside the unit in a manner that improves their effectiveness. Okay, you have people that you realize that, they are always ready to support other people's work. I know of um, movie artists mostly, when they are giving awards, they are not the main character, but they give them an award of the best supporting character because they make the work of the main character very easy. We have people like that in our offices, in our workplaces. You find them always facilitating the work of others. So that could be what you mean when you say that the person works with others, contributes to effectiveness of others in the work unit. You could also mean the person shares information and resources. Okay. You could also mean develops effective working relationships. Okay, there are people that are just good with, forming relationships, all right, and they do their best to be at the best of relations, or they relate very well with everybody, so long as that contributes to getting the work done. Okay, it could also mean the person helps build consensus or constructively manages conflict. Somebody is good with managing conflict. So what it could mean any of these. And that's what we mean by it's multidimensional. So contribution to the effectiveness of others in the work unit could be assessed by using a scale, including anchors, demonstrating various levels of competence. For example, anchors could be words and phrases such as outstanding, significantly, exceed standards, fully meet standards, does not fully meet standards, and unacceptable. Okay, so these are ways that you can um, demonstrate the levels of competence of this person. So you've made this statement, either sometimes you can write it out, or these anchors are stated there and you may have to tick one of them, or you can also write that out. Whichever way you want to be able to illustrate and evaluate the multidimensional nature of performance. Now, determinants of performance. Performance has to do with what we have: the declarative knowledge, okay, but procedural knowledge and motivation. These come together to form performance, or they are ones that influence performance. Now, in order to determine the performance of an employee, some series of questions should be asked. What factors cause an employee to perform at a certain level? Why do certain individuals perform better than others? A combination of three factors, that's the ones I have just mentioned. In addition, HR practice, example, the amount of training available. So the three things plus the amount of training that is available to these employees and the work environment. Now, declarative knowledge is information about facts and things, including information regarding a given task, requirements, labels, principles, and goals. So these ones are usually very objective. They are, call it the book way of doing things, or the things that are stated out clearly in the text, or the manual of how to do something, maybe the basics of how to be a sales manager, or the basics of how to be a procurement manager, the basis of lecturing. So the basic knowledge that the person needs to be able to perform that, they are like the facts. Okay. And so those are what we call the declarative knowledge, knowledge of the how to do the job, or the the principles and the guidelines regarding that particular task. Procedural knowledge is combination of knowing what to do and how to do it. And it includes cognitive, physical, perceptual, and interpersonal. So this is like a multi-dimensional what ingredients of carrying out a particular task. All right. This is where you need bits of everything. How the person's mind works physically. You find that some people are on TV, not only, I mean, in so many things, including their physical. I won't say just their physical, because if they can't do, but if you look at some people very well, you realize that their physical nature contributes, or maybe if they were competing with somebody and they all had the same qualities. Now, beauty or their physical nature, sometimes not just beauty, but it is the confidence you carry. Some people just see them and you want to listen to them. Okay, so they will be put or they will be given tasks that complements their physical nature also. Perceptual, how they think, okay, matters. So yes, we are looking for a procurement officer, but we are also looking for somebody who has a certain perception or certain way of thinking, right? And a certain way of relating to people, because it will contribute to the job. It will get the job further than, okay, so somebody who has a declarative knowledge will just be able to do the basics, all right? When there are challenges, they might not be able to push through. Okay, when there are hitches here and there, they might give up. Okay, they might not even have the passion to carry out that job. But somebody with procedural knowledge is like someone with well blended ingredients in them, or skills, or knowledge, several of them, and that usually that is not taught in a class. It has to do with a person's personality, their experience, and commitment, and so on. Okay, determinants, motivation is the third one. So that involves three types of choice behaviors. When we say motivation, how the person even chooses to do things at the workplace will tell you their level of motivation. So choice to expend effort. Example, I will go to work. Okay. That's different from choice of level of effort. That is, I will put in my best. So I will go to work. It's just I'll go to work because I have to go to work. But I'll put in my best effort at work is another thing. That's another level of commitment. I'm just not going to work, but I will put in my best effort at work. That is a higher level. And then we have choice to persist in the expenditure of that level of effort. Okay, so then you come to another higher level. That means I will give up after a little while versus I will persist. I will persist through that which I have to do. Okay. Now, all three determinants of performance must be present for performance to reach high levels. So even though we say that declarative knowledge is just the basics, and procedural is more, has more of multi-dimensional ingredients or knowledge, they are all important. Motivation plus these three, so you don't leave one. All of them together is what makes it the best. So top performance in all fields usually engage in deliberate practice consistently, daily, including weekends. Deliberate practice is different from regular practice and from simply working more hours a week. So we're saying that the key to performance, higher performance, is deliberate practice. It is, you put your mind to it, you plan to do it, you have convinced yourself this is the way to do it. I want to get to this performance level, and this is my motivation, and I'll do it and persist on it no matter what. It's not just the fact that I go to work every day, but do I have a deliberate attitude towards wanting to perform. That is the difference between a high performer and a normal performer. Now, deliberate practice involves the following 5 steps. Approach performance with the goal of getting better. Okay, so if you want to be deliberate about your practice, your performance, or making sure that you perform high, number one, you should approach performance with that mindset that you want to get better and better. So it starts from the mind. That's basically what we are trying to say. It starts from the way you are thinking, your cognition, your cognitive activity. And number two, as you are performing, focus on what is happening and why you are doing things the way you do, right? So deliberate means that you are focusing on it. You are conscious at every point of what you are doing and why you're doing it. You give yourself reason to do it and do it well. 3, once your task is finished, seek performance feedback from expert sources, and the more sources, the better. Okay, so you want to, we said in the last class that usually don't just wait for your supervisor to come to you with feedback. Go in search for feedback because you know what that will do for you. And so go after it and seek for feedback so that you can be better. Number 4, build mental models of your job, your situation, and your organization. So yes, your organization, based on the organizational goal, you're going to sit down and draw a certain picture. It's like you're drawing a certain goal for you. You're carving a goal out of the mother goal and saying that, look, this is how or what I want to achieve at the end, and make a picture out of it, a mental picture. Number 5, you want to repeat the steps 1 to 4 continually and ongoing and in an ongoing basis. So just doing it one time will not cut it. Doing it over and over and making it your habit. And if you are an organization, making this practice the habit is what will get you there. Very important. Now, there are implications for addressing performance problems. The fact that performance is affected by the combined effect of 3 different factors. And what are these factors? The procedural knowledge, the um, 3 knowledges, the declarative, procedural, and motivation. It means that whenever there is a problem or there's a deficiency, you need to go back and look at whether the problem is coming from, is it knowledge, procedural knowledge, is it declarative knowledge, or is it from the motivation, or is it a combination of all of these? So your understanding of the deficiency here is based on these 3, because it is these 3 that contributes to performance. And so you cannot solve the problem without looking at these areas. Okay. And so always look at where is the problem coming from. That is the way you can effectively attempt to solve that problem. Now, performance is multidimensional, means that we need to consider many different types of behaviors to understand performance. So although we can identify many specific behaviors, 2 types of behaviors or performance facets stand out. Task performance, that's work role performance, and then contextual performance, also called pro-social behaviors of organizational citizenship behaviors, or extra role performance. Now, task performance is defined as activities that task or work role performance. So task performance is defined as task or work role performance as behaviors that are pertinent to the goals and mission of an organization. They are determined by the job description. So this is like the basics of what you should do at the job place. Okay, the job description that is given to you. And so your performance, you are performing based on what you have been given, and nothing more. You are not going beyond that. These receive official reward. They transform raw materials into the goods and services that are produced by the organization. So mostly they go with those who are doing more of the material, building up of materials or creating stuff. Those, you'd have to go by that. Okay, you can't be trying to produce a certain product and be trying to, unless you're trying, you are allowed to be creative. Okay, if not, if it's been decided this is the design we're going for, we are making this number of them, your job description would clearly state that, and that is what you should follow. Okay, and you would be giving you official reward, which is the normal salary. Okay, and that is part of performance. It's not bad. And so you must look at whether that is what the organization wants. Is it the kind that you can risk innovation? It's not all the time that innovation is necessary, right? You can't be a military man and go to war and want to be innovative there. Okay, you can only be innovative in terms of how much you are allowed to. Okay, but mostly you would have to listen to direct instruction and take them right there. I mean, now the two is the contextual performance, and it is defined as those behaviors that contribute to the organization's effectiveness by providing a good environment in which task performance can occur. It is also known as organizational citizenship behavior. And this has to do with discretionary individual behavior, not explicitly recognized by the formal reward system. So contextual performance includes behaviors such as persisting with enthusiasm and exerting extra effort as necessary to complete one's own task activities successfully, volunteering to carry out task activities that are not spelled out for you in your job description, helping and cooperating with other workers. So these are the things that you've not been clearly told when you come do this, that. But somehow you have used your discretion to come to the point where you know that if I go the extra mile and do things this way, it would help me perform my task better. Okay, so I am paid this amount to be able to do this, maybe to sell these amounts of cars within a month or a certain period. Now, what I have not been told is exactly the kind of um, enthusiasm I should come with, even though I'll be told to be enthusiastic, but how should I be enthusiastic? Okay, how early should I come? Maybe yes, if there's time for me to come, but if I came maybe even 30 minutes earlier or an hour earlier, that is by my discretion. I'll be able to do more. So by that, I'm going an extra mile. If I smile with my customers more, I will do more than just selling 10 cars in a month. I might sell 2 more cars in addition. And that is where an introduction of more than your official salary would be introduced. You get people getting allowances here and there, getting paid for overtime and volunteering here and there. And that is all part. So they are frequently referred to as OCB because they consist of all the behavioral components that constitute extra role performance, right? You're doing an extra role. 5 dimensions of OCB, that's extra role performance. 1, altruism. That is the extent to which employees assist co-workers who have very heavy workloads, helping them with personal matters and showing new employees the ropes when they first arrive on the job. So you have this type of workers when you get there, you are new, you enter, they are so nice to you. They want to help you settle well. They want to show you around. It's not part of their job. And they just have created or built that attitude to work, okay, ready to make other people feel okay. They will show you around. They will even spend an extra hour or two after work to take you through what they have gone through or how they were able to overcome certain challenges when they came in newly. Yeah, they are just nice to you. They would help you with where to find your lunch place, where to have a nap. I mean, these are things that no one has told them to do, but they're going the extra mile. It is part of performance, and the performance management system should have a space in there where they are able to reward these things, because the truth is that just doing what you've been told is your main job and doing it anyhow will not cut it. What will make it for you is, I mean, going the extra mile, using your intuition or your discretion. Okay, just that we need to be careful. I mean, to do these things within the laws or the rules and regulations that govern the work that we do. Okay, don't be somebody who does, or I mean, be an overdoer. You would do and do extra. Too much of everything is bad. Okay, you find yourself going too much into people's matters just because you think you want to be nice. Okay, condoning with everything. People say being a people pleaser unnecessarily, and sometimes you might end up even neglecting your core job and go doing other people's job just because you think that that's going an extra mile. You need to be careful. There has to be some boundaries to some of these things. So that is what we call altruism. And the truth is that these days, when we are recruiting people, people look out for these things. Okay, they look out for I mean, you say you know how to lecture, or you say you are a medical doctor. Do you have other skills? Some we call some of them soft skills. Okay, are you a nice person? These are things that can promote the work that your core job is to heal people, but the things outside the box, the things that are not spelled black and white, sometimes can push you way ahead. Number two is conscientiousness, behaviors that go beyond the minimum required level. Okay, that's what I've talked about, your minimum required level. So you're supposed to come at 8, but you decide that, look, I'm going to be here at 7 so that I can do that, and be more effective and be more useful at the workplace, right? Courtesy, behavior to prevent the likelihood of issues with others whilst taking proactive steps to avoid infringing upon the rights of others. Okay, so I've also talked about this briefly. Okay, so it's called courtesy, where you are putting up a behavior to make sure that you are working well with others, you're cooperating, you're being a team player, okay, you're being proactive here and there, right? But that's why I said that there's a thin line between that and going outside the law, especially things of safety, things of security. I mean, things of confidentiality. So, sorry. I mean, be careful, because that is a workplace, and most often people become scapegoats when they are not careful. So because you can easily fall into trouble if you are everywhere. So make sure that there is moderation in all of these things. Okay, you're not too much into people's stuff, but you're also very a nice person to work with. If you need my support, I'm there. Because sometimes, okay, you are trying to be proactive, and you don't even find out somebody needs to do something, and you quickly rush in, and maybe they had a different plan. Maybe there was a different communication from somewhere that you are not aware of, and you go carry this activity out, and you find yourself in trouble because you did not even find out. You thought you're trying to make the person happy. I remember the other day, my husband he was driving and to work, and he was actually complaining of being late. That day he needed to have a meeting and all of that, and also looking at some things he needed to do outside. So whether when a colleague called him and said, "Oh, I have signed in your name," and he was just devastated. He said, "Look, this person has messed up my day because it's not how I plan to go about things. I mean, there are even cameras, and for you to say you have signed in my name, what if I'm caught by?" I mean, it was just a wrong move. But just a new person, okay, under him and trying to please him unnecessarily. All right. So that was a little over the board. And those are the things we are talking about. Be careful. Be very, very careful how you go about these things. Number four, sportsmanship, behavior that maintains good relationship with co-workers, even when the organization is going through a challenging time. So we have such people who are very resilient and still show up lively. I mean, things are going bad, but look, they're showing up every day. They're trying to keep up. All right. I know of a time when at our institution, we were things were not good at all, and salaries were not paid for a very long time. And we still had to decide that, look, these are just difficult times. Good times might come. So we will still come and teach. We will come to work every day. We'll do all that we have to do with all the enthusiasm, hoping that things will get better. And a few years down the line, things are much better. And that's what so you don't be a sportsman, be there even time when times are hard. um civic sorry So differences between task and contextual performance, right? Task performance, I think we have looked at this. Task performance has to do with what attracting official reward. Contextual are not rewarded officially. Okay. Various varies across jobs. Uh, Contextual fairly similar across jobs. Okay, so being a sportsman, being conscientious, and all of those things applies to every job, whether you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a pilot, whatever you are. So mostly contextual performance will catch you because they are more of the soft skills, right? But I can't be the task or the task performance of a medical doctor is not the same as that of a lecturer, okay? Because that has to do with a clear job description. Why include task and contextual performance dimensions in a PM system? Okay, the reason is one, global competition is rising or is raising the level of task and contextual performance required of employees for an organization to be competitive. So for competitive advantage sake, you can no longer just appear, take a job, and you think that all you are expected to do is just, okay, I'm a lecturer, just go to class, teach, you are boring and you think it doesn't matter. You are not motivating your students and you think that's enough. You don't work well with your colleagues. You don't, you can't even manage conflict properly. I mean, and you think that it's enough. In this day and age, competition will wipe you out if you are not careful. And if you employ people like that, or you have a culture that does not include contextual performance as well as task performance. Number two, customer service. Global competition is also raising the need for outstanding customer service. These days, we say that the customer is the king and they are the ones that determine how we behave. It doesn't matter how, I mean, you see the customer, your perception of them. They might be fooling, but what you need is their patronage. And so however you will get that, you need to make them, feel good. So serve them and serve them well. So people are looking out for this, or employers are looking out for who is able to treat the customer the best, because they're the ones that bring the money. Okay, teamwork. Many organizations have formed employees into teams, right? So people are appreciating teamwork now more than individual. So you can't say, as for me, I'll just be in my corner and I'll just do what I think I can do without really relating well with others. You don't, people are wasting your time and so they can go to hell. No, because if you are able to work well with a team, you stand the chance of being able to benefit from the person's rare knowledge. We don't know it all. That's why we work in teams. So look, sometimes you have people in the group that you feel are the weakest. They don't know anything, but they might have something. Look, somebody might have so much energy. Theirs is to run around. Theirs is to carry the chairs. If it is that one, and if you're able to figure out this is the part that the person can play very well, and you give them that role, they will kill themselves for the job. The problem is where because we're in a team, we think that everybody should do the same thing. No, that's not what teamwork is about. That's why these days, even when it comes to research, when they see that you are like a number of authors that have come together with diversity, the people appreciate that. We go for funding for research and they are looking for diversity, okay, because they want to see that different people have contributed and the result is a rich one. So don't write people off. When we give you group work to do, don't write people off because you think that, oh, this person doesn't know that or that. What do you think they can do best? Okay, so be a team player so that you can maximize your potential. Number 4, employee perceptions of performance management. Okay, employees are more satisfied with the PM system and believe it is fairer if contextual performance is measured in addition to task performance. So if you have a system that does not include task contextual performance or combine these two, and they're using just the task, which is mostly the case, then it would not be seen as a fair assessment. Imagine that we are in a team, and yes, I'm not able to do the Excel, but I'm very good at what? Doing a proofread, okay? And so I do my proofread, and you think that because I'm not the one who did the Excel sheet and did the very technical things, then I didn't perform well. You would not perform so well if my contribution of doing a good proofread is not counted. So if we do not look at these things, the person who runs around, the person who does logistics, the person who is smiling to the customer very well and treating people well, the person who welcomed this new co-worker very well and made the person settle well and is now working and contributing, in very technical ways. If we didn't have such a person, the company will still not perform very well. So it is important that we always include that in our performance management system. So another reason why you should include task and contextual performance dimensions in a PM system is supervisor views. Some contextual performance has an impact on ratings of overall performance, even when only task performance is measured. So it makes sense to include contextual performance more explicitly. Now, job performance in context. Okay, the previous PowerPoints that we looked at did show that employees do not perform in a vacuum. Okay, you just don't go to work and you have no framework to work within. You don't work in a vacuum. You have a certain context in which you are working. You are given a target, and that target is from the organizational strategy. Okay, so people work in context. They engage in certain behaviors that produce certain results. The same employees may behave differently and produce different results if placed in a different situation. Example, if they were working with a different supervisor or using better machinery. Okay, so it's not just, okay, the person is good, and so no matter where you take them to, no matter how you treat them, whether you give them resources or not, they will perform. It doesn't happen that way. You can have a very good worker and you employ them, or they might be doing excellently in another company. You go and get them to come to your company, only for them to fail there. And you might think that, oh, so they were not good after all. That's not the reason. It's because the conditions that were created probably in the other organization where they were excelling is not what is in this new organization. So the context matters. Who their supervisor is matters. What kind of machinery they have matters. Okay. What working culture is prevalent or prevalent in the current organization matters. So people don't just perform. Now, job, we have three traits or three levels. Yeah, and you can look at the traits and the behavior and results. These are all performance approaches of measuring, right? And so for some people, we have a performer, that's an individual or a team with certain traits, specific traits, and that is what makes them excel. And sometimes performance measurement is based on that. And they are in a given situation and engages in certain behaviors, and it produces certain results. Okay, so sometimes the traits measurement is based on the fact that that trait combined with certain behaviors will produce certain results. All right. So let's look at the approaches to measuring performance. There are three of them, like we've mentioned: the trait, the behavior, and the results, right? Now, behavior approach. This one emphasizes, or that's the behavior approach of measuring performance. It emphasizes how employees do on the job and how they do that job. Okay, so they do not consider employees' traits on the outcomes or resulting from their behavior. It emphasizes how employees do on the job and does not consider employees' traits on the outcomes resulting from their behavior. So it is they remove their focus from the traits. So maybe you are a very a talkative, or you are an extrovert, or you are excellent in writing, or you are very good in your vocalist, or you are a very good communicator. Not exactly what they are looking for. These are traits that you have. This is basically a process that is oriented, process-oriented approach that emphasizes how an employee does the job. So yes, you are good at talking, you're good with writing, you are an excellent communicator, okay, but what process did you go through to get the job done? That is very necessary. So if you have, let's say, a lecturer, okay, what processes did the lecturer go? Maybe you are looking at, did the lecturer actually come physically to class? Or if you are an online teaching, or you blend, did the person use these? What kind of materials of teaching? Okay, when the person is starting to teach, is there a certain spelled out procedure? So depending on the organization, and their focus and their goal, they might be focusing on the process rather than the traits that the person has. So the behavior approach is most appropriate under the following. One, the link between behavior and results is not obvious. Okay, so when they realize that the link, the fact that you have a behavior that leads to a certain result, and that link is not obvious, then they cannot be emphasizing on that. Okay, then they would want to look at the processes, the behavior. All right. And then outcomes occur in the distant future. Outcomes occur in the distant future. So they will want to ignore the traits and the results when they know that, okay, this work that we are doing, the outcome does not come until maybe 2-3 years. Are we going to wait till those 2-3 years before we would measure the performance of the person? No. So we have to start looking, focusing on the processes, because we know that certain processes will lead to that. So if we get the behavior right, we are hopefully going to get the result right. Or maybe it's not necessary. It's about the procedure. So when the desired result will not be seen for months or even years, the measurement of behavior is beneficial, right? Poor results are due to causes beyond the performance control. So sometimes you realize that it doesn't have to do with the results. It's not solely on the performance control. Maybe it will result in or dependent on other people or other factors. So you can't go evaluating me on something that does not depend on me only. Number two, results approach. This emphasizes only the outcomes and results produced by the employees. It does not consider the traits that the employees may possess or how employees do the job. So here, the trait is ignored, behavior is ignored. They are looking at results. They are looking at the end game. So as a student, we don't care whether you studied, whether you came to class. Okay, did you do your assignments along the way? Were you respectful of? No, they're just looking at, did you pass? So we have organizations like that. And this is usually used based on the following. One, workers are skilled in the needed behavior. So we realize that, oh, these people know what they're about. In terms of behavior, we don't have to worry. Okay, so what we should worry about is the results. Okay, so something that we've perfected. It's possible that they at some point, I mean, they focus on behavior and manage to get that perfected. And so they no longer need to look at that. So they would now look at results. Behavior and results are obviously related. So when you realize that they are tied together, when you get results, it means that the procedures were followed rightly. Then in that case, we will focus on the results because that's what's more important to us. Results show consistent improvement over time. Okay, results show consistent improvement over time. When results improve consistently over time, it is an indication that workers are aware of the behaviors needed to complete the job successfully. In these situations, it is appropriate to adopt a results approach to assessing performance. So over the time, you have realized that the result is improving. That means that people know what to do to get the result. In that case, let's now start looking at the levels of results, how the improvement is going, so that we can monitor that and increase that more and more. And also when there are many ways to do the job right. So there's so many ways we may not be able to capture. So it's like being a lecturer. It's very difficult to pin down a lecturer to a certain set of behavior. You can have general rules, but very difficult to say that, oh, this is the way. Exactly, this is how you should. That's why you have academics are always at loggerheads with things when it comes to this. So if you open this discussion, it will be very difficult. Okay. mostly maybe scientists, medical doctors cannot be exploring at every time. Okay, so we can look at if you want to do a C-section, what procedure? So the procedure is very important, and medical usually go with more procedure, because if you follow the procedure right and the person still dies, we know that you are not the one who gives life. So that's why they say we did everything we could. It's always their national anthem, because for them, procedure is key. So if there is a problem and they want to investigate a doctor for maybe killing somebody, they're going to look at the procedure that he went with, because that's how they measure their performance, even though they also consider number of lives that have been saved and things like that. But it is important also for them in terms of procedure. Trait approach emphasizes the individual performer and ignores the specific situation, ignores behavior, and ignores results. So if one adopts the trait approach, raters evaluate relatively stable traits. These can include abilities such as cognitive abilities, which are not easily attainable, or personality, which is not likely to change over. So usually when I go through this, I remember, or what comes to mind is TV personalities. You realize that TV shows are built on personalities. Okay. Sometimes you can have a morning show and it's because of the personality of the person. Sometimes there are certain radio stations I don't listen to when it's not a certain personality. So because of that, it might be just the way the person thinks. So when they are on air, how they think and the way they project themselves. Okay, you go onto social media, you're following a certain person because of a certain trait. Okay, so those are usually things that cannot be learned in class, right? And so it qualifies them to be who they are. And so it makes it easier to be looking out for those traits. And if those traits are still there, if at some point they are not there, they are removed. That's why some TV people are on TV because they are beautiful. And the moment they grow old, they are taken off, or they are actresses and actors. They are measured based on if we are still young enough to play roles related to romance and things like that. If not, maybe they'll change the role because it'll make you an old lady now, or they are taking off completely. Now, what are some of the challenges of implementing a system that emphasizes the measurement of traits only? Imagine that you are only looking at that. First, traits are not under the control of individuals, okay, like beauty, like the way I talk, the way I smile. So if you it's very dangerous to be looking at just traits when measuring performance. Um, Unless, like we said, the core mandate of the organization is based on that. There's nothing we can do about it. In most cases, they are fairly stable over one's lifespan. They are not likely to change, even if an individual is willing to exert substantial effort to do so. So consequently, employees may feel that a system based on traits is not fair, because the development of these traits is usually beyond their control. Number two, if the fact that an individual possesses a certain trait, example, intelligence, does not mean that this trait will necessarily stay forever or lead to the results that are needed, or the behaviors that are needed. So if you go about looking for just traits and measuring traits as the person is very intelligent, what about the person is an abuser? What about the person is unfair and is abusing people, assaulting people, has a bad character? I mean, that's not dressed well. I mean, it's a lot of things. So I think it would be shallow for a system to be based on just traits as a measuring performance measurement. Yeah, so this brings us to the end of our lecture today. Thank you for joining me here. So until my next video, thank you and all the best. Please subscribe to my channel and let's keep in touch.